Good evening, OPA families. In an effort to answer some questions that we've been receiving regarding the instructional program selection, I've made a brief video kind of going over the new monitoring system as well as what those instructional programs will look like. So first off, the new county monitoring system. So there is a new tracking system that the governor released the end of last week. No longer will counties be kind of based off of the old or judged off of the old criteria and placed on a list or on or off of a list. Now the counties will be monitored based on different risk levels, the highest being widespread or the purple risk level. And that's more than 7 daily new cases per 100,000 population, and then more than 8% positive tests. In this tier, most schools need to remain closed to in-person instruction unless they are able to qualify for a waiver. The next highest tier would be the substantial or red tier. In this tier, schools can reopen for in-person instruction after they've remained in the red tier for 14 days. In this tier, though, schools have to follow all health and safety guidelines when they reopen, including social distancing guidelines. So most schools in this tier would need to reopen in some sort of a hybrid model or a model where they can keep students in much smaller cohorts. Currently, San Diego County is the only county in Southern California that's in the red tier. Orange County is in this highest risk level in the purple tier currently. So what does that mean for reopening schools? So the red tier, in order to open schools have to be in that red tier for at least 14 days. Again, no schools can reopen if they are in the purple tier unless they reopen under a waiver. And counties must stay in a tier for 7 days before moving to the next tier during this initial phase. So for this week, and this week only, counties only have to stay in a tier for 7 days before being able to move out. After this week, or after September 8th, counties have to stay in a tier for 3 weeks before moving to the next tier. So what does that mean for Orange County? Again, on August 31st, Orange County was placed in the purple tier, meaning that schools can't reopen. The next monitoring date is September 8th. Orange County could move into the red tier if our numbers remain low. If that happens, then on September 23rd, after remaining in that red tier for 2 weeks, if we stay in the red tier, then we can begin to plan for hybrid instruction model or bringing students back to in-person on-campus instruction. If our numbers do not remain low, then we could remove or return to the purple tier, and then we would have to continue to wait again for the next monitoring date. So if Orange County on September 8th remains in the purple tier, we would have to stay in the purple tier for 3 weeks. After that 3 weeks, we would move, or we could move to the red tier if our numbers decrease, and that would start our 2-week countdown again to be able to reopen. Or if our numbers don't get better, we could again stay in the purple tier, which would keep us in virtual learning. So if OPA moves to the red tier on September 8th, our plan is to really begin planning for in-person instruction, going through, as soon as we start receiving that data, as far as the parent selections for their instructional options, we would start placing students into the different cohorts and building a schedule. We will again provide 2 options for families, either a hybrid learning option or a virtual learning option for students once it's safe to do so, and once we are in that red tier and have been in that red tier for the 2 weeks. As you're doing now, parents will select which model students participate in, and the selection that you're making this week is for the first and second trimesters. We need to provide some consistency, and we can't keep changing the schedule because it is a very complex schedule for 1,600 students in different cohorts in virtual learning versus hybrid learning. So we are holding students in that selection for the first and second trimester. If circumstances have changed with the virus in the spring, families will, however, have the chance to change their selection for trimester 3. And then if we're able to return to 100% in-person instruction, virtual learning students will have a chance to return to school or again to stay virtual. So we want to continue to provide families with options that they feel are in the best interest of their family and their students in terms of safety. So again, this selection that you're doing this week will be for the first and second trimesters. And then you will have that chance to change your selection for trimester 3. The one thing is, if a student, for health or safety reasons or because they've been exposed and need to quarantine, is in a hybrid model, we will definitely switch that student over to the virtual learning model immediately. Anytime between now and the end of the school year. However, just flip-flopping back and forth between the two models will not be allowed. You'll only be able to make a change again at trimester 3. So a description of these two models, starting with the virtual learning. Most students will attend Zoom sessions as part of either the AM or PM cohort with their current class or teacher. Teachers will video lessons and broadcast them through Zoom. Both in-person and virtual students will be able to interact with the teacher during these times. Students will complete asynchronous work when they're not in class, and students will have a short break somewhere around halfway through the session, because we know that 3 hours is a long time for students to sit on the computer and not have a snack and things like that. So then our hybrid students will attend in-person sessions as part of either, again, the AM or PM cohort with their current class or teacher. The teacher will provide instruction to students in cohorts of approximately 10 to 15 students, depending on how many students remain virtual. But all students will have social distancing in the classroom. Desks will be more than 6 feet apart. Students will need to wear masks. And staff and students, and then students and students will not be able to interact with each other in a distance of less than 6 feet. Students also will still be required to complete asynchronous work or kind of independent homework when not in class. And then our students that are on campus will still have a short break, but they'll need to remain in the classroom unless they need to use the restroom. For safety reasons, we can't have large groups of students congregating outside on the playground during in-person instruction. So again, these descriptions are based on the current data and guidelines, but they still may be subject to change as we get more data, both on the student instructional model selection, as well as any new guidance from state or local officials. So we're also trying to keep students with their current class and teacher for both of these models. However, it may be necessary to move some students if there is a larger percentage of virtual or a larger percentage of hybrid in a particular class, just to make it more manageable, as well as a more engaging experience for the students. So we are making every effort to continue to keep students with their current teacher, but again, we may have to make a few slight changes, but that's definitely not what we want to do. We want to keep students with their same classes and teachers. So a little bit more detailed description of hybrid instruction. Again, small cohorts, 10 to 15 students. Students will attend an AM or PM cohort of about 3 hours. All of our hybrid students that are attending on campus will get temperature checks and health screenings each day when entering their class. Students will have about a 10-minute break because 3 hours is a long time to sit and have academic instruction. All of our students, both hybrid and virtual, will participate in Zoom sessions when they're not in class for their other courses for PE, music, and world language. Those students who opted out of music or world language can still remain opted out of those classes, but they will still have to attend their weekly Zoom session for PE because that is a required core class. And then all students will have to complete some homework and independent work outside of their 3-hour class time. We are offering for students to participate in the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club programs when they're not in class. Both of these programs are offered at each one of our campuses for students and will be offered whether the students are in the AM or PM cohort. They will be offered in alternate schedules so that any students can attend when they're not in class. As I stated before, students will not be permitted to leave the classroom except for restroom breaks for safety reasons. And when we are placing students in cohorts, it will be done randomly through ARIES in order to be fair to all families. And only siblings will be placed in the same cohort. So the only manual linking of students for cohorts will be with siblings. We can't really make accommodations for AM or PM cohorts for students who are not families or part of the same family. So for virtual instruction, students, again, will participate in Zoom sessions, and we will do everything possible to make sure it's with their current teacher. Students will attend either an AM or PM cohort, and we have purchased cameras and microphones for teachers so that those Zoom sessions can be broadcast live from the classroom, and students are able to interact with their teacher, even if they're virtual, and ask questions, join discussions, and be engaged in the classroom experience. Virtual students will still be required to attend all Zoom class sessions, just like in-person students, in order to receive attendance credit for those classes. And again, siblings, we will try to place in the same cohort to make scheduling easier for the Zoom classes, especially if we have twins. We'll try to put them in the same Zoom sessions, but other scheduling will be done through ARIES. And even students with virtual instruction will have that about 10-minute break to be able to get a snack, get up, move around, things like that, and not be on Zoom for such a long period of time. And then virtual instruction, just like with our hybrid students, they'll participate in PE, music, or world language Zooms in the opposite time of the day from these, from their actual core academic instruction time. So a little bit of clarification about the selection survey. We do need every family to complete an instructional program selection by Friday, September 4th for every student. So it's not by family. You need to complete a different selection for each student in your family. If a parent fills out more than one survey for a student, or if a husband and wife fill out one for a student, the last survey submitted will be the one that we use for placement. Again, this selection is final. We can't make changes during the first or second trimester unless a student must be moved to virtual learning due to some type of COVID-19 exposure or other health and safety issue. There will be a chance for parents to change their selection for trimester 3 if we're not back to 100% in-person instruction at that time. Cohort selection AM PM is not available. All cohorts, again, will be scheduled randomly, and only siblings will be manually placed in the same cohort. And we will make every effort to keep students with their current teacher, but in looking at the data, if there are drastically uneven numbers between two different classes in the same grade level, we may have to make some schedule changes. And then again, in-person instruction will only be implemented if and when Orange County schools are able to reopen, and OPA can do so without a high risk to our staff, students, and families' health and safety. So, health and safety is definitely still our main priority. We want to be able to bring students back on campus, but we want to make sure that we're able to do it in a safe way. And again, we also think it's very important to provide those options for parents who want to continue to have their students have class virtually, even if we are able to bring some students back on campus. So I want to thank everyone again for all of your support and just for being so wonderful throughout all of this confusing time. I know it's been really tough for a lot of our families, for our teachers, for our students. There's a lot going on, and everybody has, had to make a lot of sacrifices and really take on a greater role in the education of our students. So I, again, am extremely grateful for all of your support and for all of the support of our staff and just everyone involved in our community. We'll continue to update you with information as it becomes available. And at OPA, our main priority is to continue to provide high quality, engaging instruction for all of our students, regardless of which program model you choose as a family. We want to, again, continue to make sure that all of our students are safe and are healthy. All of our staff is safe and healthy. But we are a school, and we do want to also be able to continue to really provide our students with a high quality education. If you have any questions,